Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at meetings is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here with us this evening, and thank you, Ann, for being here.
Yes, thank you, Anne, for being here. We're thrilled to have you, and we're also thrilled to have everyone here. And I'm going to read a bio for Anne, and she, as you will see, and I think she'll talk about this a little bit later, she's experienced a lot of the things that we've gone through as Shining Light parents as well. As a young girl, Anne had a knowing about people and animals. In later years, she had several profound spiritual encounters with her deceased grandmother that led her to seek answers about death and the afterlife. As the years went by, Spirit found every way possible to get her attention, and she knew it was time to understand more. Following the birth of her second child, Anne felt an energetic shift that jolted her awareness. She began to read as much as she could about psychic abilities and mediumship to better understand if this actually was what she was experiencing. She felt pulled to study abroad at the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England. And this is where she began her quest for her own development, and continues to make mediumship education a top priority and travels internationally to sit with and experience global leaders in mental mediumship, trance healing, and trance communication. She believes that we should question with a healthy curiosity while also being open to many possibilities of the unseen world. Anne is certified by Mark, and she is also a provider of Helping Parents Heal. She's certified by the Los Angeles School for the Spiritual Arts. She's a member of AREI, which is the Afterlife Research and Education Institute, and enjoys helping others on their own spiritual journeys. I have her website here, which is just www.annvanorsdel.com. I'll put it in the chat box. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming the beautiful Ann Van Orsdel. Welcome, Ann.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Irene. It is so great to be here. It's been a while. It's been a few years, I think, since I've been with this community in this capacity. So it's great to see all these faces. Not sure if I recognize anyone quite yet. It's a lot of different faces here. But just thank you so much for inviting me to share a little bit. I really want this, we have an hour together, this time together to be as interactive as possible. I know that you all have heard from your children in spirit at various times through gallery readings and things of that nature. I wanted to focus this hour on kind of sharing my experiences I say that with a caveat because spirit is known to hijack anybody that's on a phone call with me or a Zoom, and they may come through. So I absolutely honor that and will be bringing through any messages if they come up. But I really feel the pull from spirit to work a little bit on the education side tonight, and help answer any questions that you all may have, and really just kind of share with you maybe a perspective that you wouldn't normally see. And part of that is kind of, what is it like to be a medium, to go through these experiences? Elizabeth talked about my studying. I definitely make quite an investment in studying both here in the US and abroad. I am a lifetime student of spirit. I think when we stop learning, that's when we are on the other side. And I love that aspect of this work. I really enjoy the scientific side of things. I have a mentor who says to me all the time, question everything. That doesn't mean you go into everything with a skepticism, but it is good to question. And when I work with spirit, there are often times where I will say to them, I need to know. I need to know this is you, or I need to have a specific sign. Well, that might feel selfish. It's also part of my own development. And maybe one of the most selfish things is when I am serving spirit, when I am working in a capacity, whether it's educating through a workshop, which I love to do, or working on my trance development, which has been my focus for the last couple of years. I think it's really a gift to me when spirit comes through. I'm also receiving a very special gift, and that gift is pure love. And what I say to people, when you are having a true connection with your loved ones in the unseen world, as I will call it, you feel that, And so I ask you to look for that when you are having a session, whether it's a private session or maybe it is in one of these groups. You can feel that energy from the spirit world. That's when you know they're touching you. They're touching your soul. Because that is, at the end of the day, we are all souls living this human existence. So I think I'll start with kind of, as I study and what I work on, and I even want to take you through a little exercise. I was telling Elizabeth and Irene before we started that I used to do a lot of meditation, and I still do meditate on a daily basis. I believe very strongly in that. However, I've changed things up. And when I want to connect with the other side, maybe it's for a reading, maybe I have a speaking engagement, maybe I want to connect with my dad, who's on the other side now and has been just for a few years, I actually crank up the music. So I will say to each of you, the next time you want to connect with your children, play their favorite song, play your favorite song. Have a playlist that is dedicated just to those songs that bring you joy, that make you think of them. I remember, I think it was even 2019, Elizabeth, and I spoke at Unity Church here in Phoenix. I'm located in Northwest Phoenix. And that morning I woke up and I heard the song, the Whitney Houston song, and it was, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting the name of it, but where it's, maybe when somebody can help me out, but it's all about love. And it's just this very upbeat. And
I will always love you.
I just cranked that and I could not stop dancing. And sure enough, the very first child that came through in that gallery reading, there was a connection, higher love. That's it. Higher love. There was a connection to the song, Higher Love. And I knew that it was that young boy who woke me up that morning, told me to turn the music on and start dancing around the house. And ever since then, I've really taken that approach. Rather than quieting my mind and sitting there and hoping and wanting them to come to me, I raise that vibration and I say, all right, let's play, or let's go to work. I try to make it something very active and very engaging and inviting, so that they know that that's about what's to happen. So one of the things that I have done, and I would love to invite you all to do it with me, is when we as mediums start to evaluate not just our abilities, but the how we work. And we know the why, right? We know the why is to bring comfort and healing. And that why is also to make sure that we're able to bridge the gap between our world and the next world. And I guarantee Spirit wants this as much as we do. I cannot emphasize that enough. Spirit comes through, and again, through the last 20 years that I've been doing this, I have sat with some amazing teachers. I have heard firsthand from the spirit world, objectively in the same room as me, speaking in their own voice. So I know it's not my mind getting in the way. And they are so loving, and they want us to know how excited they are when you invite them in, and how they are there waiting for those invitations. So one of the things that we do in our mediumship studies is we want to understand how it is that we receive spirit. Maybe a show of hands. I can see one screen of faces here, but we'll start with that. How many of you are aware of, I'll say, are aware of how spirit shows up for you? You, without a doubt, know when they're there. A few. Very good. Very good. So this was something that I really sought out when I started my own studies. I said, I'm experiencing these different things. Clairvoyantly, which is clear seeing. I was starting to develop my clairaudience, clear hearing. Then Spirit wanted me to taste things. I cannot stand pickle juice. And I cannot tell you how many times Spirit would give me pickle juice and every time there was a connection with somebody in the spirit world that loves pickles. So that's how they start to help you build your library of awareness. Same with black licorice. There's always a grandfather that would eat black licorice, and he would give it to me so strongly, and it would be so annoying. But you know, those are the times where you say thank you, because they're helping to develop our senses. So even if you know how spirit shows up for you, humor me, and let's just do this little exercise. It's very short. And what I want you to do is close your eyes. And I want you to be, first of all, aware of the energy around you. Is it quiet? Is it calm? Can you maybe hear the birds outside? Or maybe there's someone else in the home that's making a little bit of a ruckus. Just be aware of what's around you. And now I want you to take your awareness to the top of your head. And just kind of with your mind, draw a circle. Almost like you would think of it as a little bubble around your head. This is the space we're going to be working with for this exercise. And now I want you to imagine that there's sand shifting from one side to the next. It's going to come to you pretty quickly and pretty obviously if this sand or leaves or whatever it might be, something that can blow from one side to the other. Does it blow from left to right to you, or does it flow right to left? Become aware of this very subtle energy shift. And I want you to ask the spirit world to shift this sand or clouds or whatever it is you visualize as being able to move from one side to the next. Now I want you to be aware of which side, left or right, feels open, feels ready to accept new energy, and which side feels more dense and full. The side that feels more open, that is the side that you receive spirit from. And as you start to work with the spirit world, you will be able to say, I feel you, I'm aware of you, because they're coming to that open door that you've created. If you have a sensation or a feeling that comes from the more dense side, I'm here to say that's your mind. That's the mind at work. And we put that aside for a reason, because in mediumship and working with the other world, there's no place for the mind. We don't need it. It gets in the way. So do you see what you've done? You've just shifted the energy and you've kept this open invitation and this open vessel. And I like to use it kind of just in the head region, because I believe it's easiest for us to feel that shift with our senses in that way. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I'd love to see again with a show of hands, first and foremost, how many of you felt a shift when we did that? A few people, good. A lot of people. And then how many of you felt it on the right side? Okay. And then how many on the left? Oh, it's about equal. Okay. And I find that that's the case. I will say that many of the mediums that I have worked with receive from the right. I don't know why, but that just has, when I've done this exercise and when I've asked people, and now it can change. The more we open our abilities and we start to become more aware of how we're receiving, we might say, oh, I know I felt that on the right side, but wait a minute, what's happening over here? And so you start to be able to notice those nuances and those real energy shifts, because that's how quickly it happens, how basic it is. And then you start to build from there how you absolutely know and can sense when a shift like that is taking place. Okay. And sometimes it might be you get the tinglings on the top of your head and your crown chakra. You might get the tinglings throughout your body, up your back. All of those are the subtle shifts that we just learn over time to develop even further. So I like to share that with you. Maybe some of you have heard that before. Some of you are, saying, I want to open up more. Well, that's a very visual exercise that you can do. And you can try it over and over again. You could do this sitting down. And sometimes people will do it standing up, and you'll actually feel your body shift from one side to the other. And that's a very profound answer to, am I a left or a right receiver? Yeah, so that's kind of fun. So we do exercises like that as part of our training. The other things that we do is we sit and understand the subtle changes. So even if you have no desire to become a medium, I would venture to say, because you're here in this meeting and because you attend these sessions on a regular basis, you absolutely have the desire to connect with your children. And so to do that, you can do this very subtly. You can do this in your, in your HPH meetings, when you're in person with others. You can do it via Zoom, because energy is energy. And it's even fun to play with it, to sit with someone else, sit across from someone else on a Zoom, sit across from someone else in person. And when I say across from someone, you can sit 2 chairs facing each other, leave only about 3 inches between the knees. That's how close you are. And just start talking. Just start telling them what it is you're feeling, what sensations you're having. That is a mediumistic response. That is a mediumistic connection. And over time, it will build. And meditation is a big part of that. Just sitting in quiet. I sit in full darkness probably 4 or 5 times a week for no other reason other than to just make sure I'm not distracted. But I've made a little closet in my home, my little sitting area. And I do that because the smaller the space, the more you can build the energy around you within that bit of a container. And so that's another thing people always ask me, do I sit in the dark? Do I sit in the same place every time? You certainly don't have to. There are no hard and fast rules. But for me, it has helped me create some discipline around sitting and being present for spirit. Because let's face it, we just get really busy in our day-to-day lives. And I have so many people that say, I don't receive any signs. I don't know if my loved ones are around me. And what I say to that is focus on your own unfoldment and your own awareness. Because the more aware you are of what's happening around you, the more readily you'll pick up on these signs. One exercise to do with that is keep a log. I like to do 3 days. So I'll tell my students, for 3 days, keep a log of all the interactions you have with other people. That's a lot. You might go out to the grocery store. What was that like? What smells, sights, sounds did you experience? Did you walk through the door at the same time as another person? Did someone get the door for you? Did you go to grab produce at the same time someone else did and they backed up and gave you that space? Did someone smile at you? When you start to jot down just those very simple, basic signs of awareness, you will, I don't know how you couldn't, you will start to look at every aspect of your day-to-day life in new ways. Can you imagine? For 3 days, that's a lot. I did that many years ago as part of an exercise, of a training exercise. And I thought, oh my gosh, now I have to go to the store. I have to pick up the kids from school. I have to go do and it made me so much more aware of how I was showing up, but also how others around me were either taking of my energy or giving of their energy, or not even noticing me at all. How often do we just go about our day and think, what the heck did I do today? I don't even remember. And it's, 8 o'clock at night. Those are very simple ways to open up your awareness on a day-to-day basis. And then it becomes this very natural shift to start recognizing what is it that is a physical human interaction and what is it that feels different. And so that's something to really think about and ponder.
It's beautiful. I was going to ask you if we can kind of intersperse this with questions. There are 2.
Yes, please. I love that.
First of all, from the exercise that you did with the right and left, Renata is asking, do we usually receive our loved ones on one side and our spirit guides on the opposite? Or do they all tend to arrive on the same side?
Great question. For me, and I can only give you my perspective and what I've learned over the years, it is the same side. I only receive the spirit world from my right side. Now, part of that's because I have worked through discipline with the spirit world, where I have said to them, you only get to come over here, because if you show up over here or behind me, I'm not going to acknowledge you. You got to play by my rules. And they want that explicit direction. They want to know what works for us, because much of the time in your early development, it's just your children trying to figure out, what does mom or dad or sister or brother or aunt or uncle, what gets their attention? How do they know I'm here? Right? So allow there to be experimentation and have fun with it, because they are having fun with it. They are so excited when they arrive on the other side and are greeted with this wonderful family reunion over there. And then they start to say, how do I do that? What do I get to do? And I just got all over body chills, because they're all showing up. They want me to get this message across to you. They are like, okay, this is cute. They're cute. I can see them. Imagine a big, I was going to say Macy's, because I'm seeing the Macy's parade, but imagine a big window front, storefront, and all of the kids just leaning into this right now and just peering at us. That's what I'm seeing. They have their hands on the glass and they're so excited. And I see all ages. I see infants. I see, 60-year-olds. They're there. And it's so sweet, because they wanted to give that visual to you, as that's them saying, okay, now where do we go? What can we try new today, mom and dad, to get your attention?
Oh, I love that. I don't know why.
That's
It's
so
very-
fun.
That is so beautiful. And it is really important for all of us to understand that this is something that they're also learning. So they're trying to figure out the cues from us. And if we're consistent in the way that we're receiving the messages and always saying thank you when we do get a message, I mean, that's a very important thing too, is to just let them know that it worked. They'll be able to do it more and more. But for some reason, I got very emotional when you were talking about Macy's and the window. That just makes complete sense to me. Of course, they're all just hoping that we get this. That's the main thing. They want us to understand this and to
Yeah, that's right, Elizabeth. And I love that you said you got emotional. That's spirit touching you.
Yeah.
When you have a great mediumship connection, a reading, a connection, and there are tears or there are feelings or there are tinglies or there's whatever. That's what we hope as mediums. We hope that you feel your loved ones. I am one of those mediums that says, if I sit with you, if you sit with me, I want it to be as though your loved ones just pulled up a chair and are having a conversation with us, right? I know there are other mediums that work differently, and for various reasons, they want to be just giving you the information and not really saying, please don't respond or don't give me too much information. But I also look at it this way. If your loved one in the physical comes to visit you, knocks on your front door, you open that front door, do you not make eye contact and just go and sit down and not engage with them or invite them in? No, you embrace them, you give them a hug, come sit down. Would you like something to drink? You are the ultimate host or hostess. So next time you connect with your child, host them, be there for them, show up in a way that says, I'm going to acknowledge you. I'm going to let you know what I can understand and what I maybe can't understand. I think that offers a next level of connection that you might not get otherwise. So when you're working with a medium, if you choose to go have a private session, ask them if you can respond and can you engage. It does not mean that you are giving information that the spirit world needs to provide. But if your child wants to bring up a wonderful, happy memory of when they were, I'll make it up. This is a reading that I did that sticks with me. 7 years old, and you gave them a stuffed animal, Spirit will show up to me, and did this in a recent reading, where I said to the woman, I'm being shown an elephant, a stuffed plush toy elephant. And I know this was given to you on your 7th birthday. And I know that you named this elephant a human name. And she said, yes, I absolutely understand that. And we went through the reading, and even till the end, she said, oh, I just wish my mom would give me just one more piece of evidence. I just want one more, that I would know that it's really her. And I said, well, I can't guarantee you that I'm going to get that piece of evidence, but I will do my best. And I know your mom will too. So we wrapped up the reading, and I was ready to say goodbye and hang up the Zoom. And I said, oh, by the way, your mom wants me to tell you Ellie the elephant. And she said, oh my God. Sure enough, that was the name of the stuffed animal, the stuffed elephant that her mother had given her on her 7th birthday. And, did she need that evidence? Did she need that proof that it was her mom there with her? Her mom thought she did. It wasn't up to me. So they are going to give you what you need. Trust in that, regardless of what you think needs to show up for you.
That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. And it's true that they will give us what we need if we ask them, and if we're willing to listen to the response, because I think that that's maybe sometimes the issue that we have, that we are so focused on maybe one specific answer that they might give us, or so focused on something that's a little bit more evident. And when we're able to see these signs and understand them, and really allow ourselves to be immersed in our children's personalities and be there for them, instead of just going through our days and missing them, but really showing up for them, as you're saying. I think that that's really important. And I don't think that we talk about that enough, that we have to not just work on all of these ideas of a connection, but actually be with them and understand what they're saying. Lauren is asking a very good question as well, and I'd love to hear your answer to this. What are the best ways to raise our vibration, be able to connect with our children?
Yeah, I think working on unconditional love, working on ourselves, first of all, doing what we can to allow grief to be a natural process, but also understanding and giving ourselves the grace to work through the grief. Because there is, you could easily say it's too early in maybe a grieving process, and everyone's different to see a medium, for example, or maybe it's too early to see another loved one that was very, close to your child. Whatever it is for you that could be really, really challenging, I don't think you need to walk into that. I don't think you need to say, I have to overcome that. I think instead you say, well, this is really another theme. This takes us right into it, Spirit's saying to me. The important aspect of this is, I want all of you to leave this session today understanding completely that this transition of a child, of any loved one, is really about creating and developing a new connection. Think about it. Just as you had one connection with your child when they were an infant, as they age and they're a toddler, different connection, different energy shift, teen years, college age years. We evolve over time and we create new expressions of love and connections with our children. When they take their transition to the other side of life, it is no different. If you can think about this as a transition in their soul's evolution, I think you can find that peace, find that forgiveness and grace to say, okay, challenge accepted. We are now going to shift the grief, the anger, all of the emotions that are natural, and we're going to focus on creating a brand new engagement and experience and connection between us. It's not over. It is just beginning. And when you start to think about that, I kind of get excited about that, right? I think excited about, okay, now I'm going to create this new way of engaging with my child. They want it as much as I do. I can feel it. You feel that pull. You feel that interest. You're reading books. You're watching videos. You're trying to understand where your new normal fits in, how this looks. And so that's really the challenge. That's the takeaway challenge that I want to give everyone today. And that is, how will I walk away from this meeting ready to create that new connection with my child? What am I going to actively do, put one foot in front of the other to make it happen? And it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but it's there for the taking. It's there for you to focus and to manifest. You have that power. We all do. My father passed in 2020 during COVID, heart failure from COVID, completely unexpected. He has shown up for me in ways that I never would have imagined. And he was not a believer in this work, in this lifetime, until 1 year before his passing. And the experience that happened then was that I was fortunate enough to have his brother, who had passed the year prior, come to me in a dream and say, I'm trying to get a hold of my brother, Larry. He's not paying attention. I need your help. And it was so real and it was so vivid. And I remember saying to him in the dream, well, why don't you come to him in a dream, just like you did me? He'll listen. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, my dad called me and he said, you're not going to believe this. And when someone says that, you gotta go, try me. Okay. And he said, for the last 2 weeks, every single night that I've fallen asleep, my brother Ed has come to me and we've spent the entire time I'm asleep just driving in the car, having conversation, and it's so real. And I now believe in what you do. And I think that you help people. And I was brought to tears. I could not believe that that's what it took for my dad to understand that A, there was an afterlife, and B, it was a beautiful, wonderful, healing reunion of souls. And I actually thought he was going to go pretty quickly. I thought that was a sign. And I prepared myself. I prepared my mother. This could happen. And it was a year later that he did take his transition during COVID. And I was so grateful that I had that preview, if you will. And I knew when he got in that ambulance and they were going to take him to the hospital, I know his brother showed up and his mother and father showed up. And they said, come on over here. You don't want to go to that hospital. And I think he said, let's do it. And I know it was a beautiful, peaceful transition. We could all, I mean, he just went like that. May I be so lucky.
Yay, all of us. That's beautiful.
Right. And I knew he was ready then.
I just have to say that in the beginning of my journey after Morgan transitioned, we were meeting at a place called Casa Mariposa right down the street off of Spurcross Road. And the owner there, who had a metaphysical healing center, this is what Casa Mariposa was visiting the site with us. And I had another medium with me, actually Suzanne Wilson, who was also planning on doing readings there. And all of a sudden, Suzanne Wilson sat down in a chair and she said, wait a second, I have someone here. And she had no idea about it, about the person who owned the center. And she said, I believe it's your father. He just transitioned recently of a heart attack. And she said yes. And she said, he's here. And he was completely not involved in what she was doing at all. He didn't believe in any of it. He, in fact, a couple days before he transitioned, he was telling her, I'm supporting you financially. I want you to be able to do all of this, but it's not something that I'll ever really believe in. And she said, he's here and he's saying that everything that you were telling him is true. Everything that you were saying before he transitioned is exactly right. And he believes you now. And this was only a month after his transition. It was so shocking to her, to Heather, because she wasn't expecting to hear from him so quickly, and also to have him say that he knew now. But I think that all of our loved ones know right away when they're welcomed home and they're met with so much love and so much kindness. So that story makes sense to me, and I'm really sorry about your father, but I know that he is happy, healthy, and home now, and he's supporting you in everything that you do.
Well, and that's why I bring it up, because I know he wants to now engage with this, because he was fascinated. He loved the idea of UFOs. He loved the idea, some of these other things. But the fact that when we die, we're not just gone, he couldn't quite get his head around that until his brother came and showed him. So I think we all have that, maybe that one pivotal personal experience that no one can touch, that it takes us from what I call believing to knowing to then growing. So believe, know, grow is kind of a mantra that I work with. And there's no right or wrong timeline for going from believing to growing. I think the growth aspect of this is our entire life on this earth, because we're not gonna have all the answers. But if you're like me, it's pretty fun to explore. We have just started to touch the surface of what we know between our world and the next. And if you take it as a fun journey and experimentation, and what the spirit world says to me all the time, expect the unexpected. That's really important here. I have had some of the most profound experiences when I least expect it. And if I haven't opened my awareness and been grateful to accept in whatever time frame or manner the spirit world has for me, I would have missed it. We don't want to miss anything. So instead, where you can, say, let's do this. Let's have fun. Let's experiment. And it will show up for you.
That's beautiful. And we have some other questions, and I wanted to see if you could answer some of these. Lauren's question is kind of long, but it brings up a really great point that maybe you could say that you could talk a little bit about a year ago, I had a reading and the medium said my daughter was with me when I was looking at the ducks, but I didn't know what she was talking about. Yesterday, I was walking in the woods and I stopped at a pond to watch some ducks. Then I remembered the medium's words. Is this because time isn't linear and my daughter knew this would happen and I would think of her? I hope so.
Absolutely. It's very common for spirit to give us a scenario, a scene that will be in the future. So when you're having a session with the medium and they talk about this, oftentimes you'll hear the medium say, just remember I told you that, right? How often does that happen? I cannot tell you how many times people will write me or whatever it is and say, you were spot on. This happened, but it was 2 weeks later, or it was the next day, or whatever it might be. Or even in the moment, we all have this psychic amnesia and we forget that we just saw the ducks in the pond. So absolutely. The fact, Lauren, I think you said her name was, the fact, Lauren, that your awareness zoned in on that experience and captured it and held it to your heart, that's all you need to know.
That's beautiful.
You didn't capture another experience, you chose that one. So yes, trust in that. Those are the things that we want to trust and say thank you. The other thing that's really key is start and end every day with gratitude. And by that, I mean grateful for taking that breath, grateful for being on this earth, grateful for being open to having an experience with your child, grateful for having your child, if it was 1 minute or longer. I don't think any of us would give back the time that we had in the physical with our children. And I heard something most recently from Spirit, which I thought was so profound, which is our children, especially children who transition, are the greatest teachers. So, oh, I just got chills. So know that if you have a child in Spirit, you are in this group because you are a select few that have been blessed with having this very special child. They are doing so much on the other side to raise the vibration of the earth, to raise the awareness of all people. That comes with the territory of children who transition. And I do believe they've made that choice because they are so evolved as souls. They are the special disciples, if you will. They are chosen to give back in ways that we could only imagine. We will understand it one day. When you're reunited, you will be held, you will hold your child in the spirit world in such high regard. I do believe there is a special level, an energetic realm for children who cross. And that they are so busy on the other side, making sure that every moment in the spirit world is captured and spent doing something for others is just a beautiful thing to think of. So not one moment is lost on that. And if you can think about it in that regard, that it is a gift and a privilege to be the parent of that special child, it may bring some comfort. I hope that it does, because I do hear that very regularly. And it's such a blessing.
I think that you're right. And I also think that all of these kids have roles that they're playing over there. I hear this frequently, that they are specifically helping other smaller children to transition. They're helping animals as well. They're helping each other all the time to be able to communicate with us. But I have a good question from Marina that I wanted to ask. And she's asking, in terms of being able to have a better communication with our children, is it something that would be a good idea to perhaps, as she says, ask your child to say to touch your right cheek, for instance? Is that something that, should you try to establish a code of the way that you're communicating with each other? Is that a good idea?
I think it can be a good idea, but I think it can also be frustrating because I'll say it this way. How do you want me to say it, Spirit? They like to give me little prompts. They're laughing because they're saying, sure, if we know it's going to work, kind of thing. Like, in other words, this is part of the be experimental, be open to something different. You might ask for a touch on the cheek, but all of a sudden you get a really strong feeling that someone's standing behind you. Did they fail at the task? No. You were aware that they were there, but maybe in that moment, how you asked for it and energetically it just didn't line up. So we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're, disappointed. Instead, look at it this way. If your child were to draw you a picture and give it to you, you would say to them, that is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen. You may not know what the heck it is. It may not resemble anything that even remotely looks like something he or she has seen before. But you're going to honor the attempt. And you're going to hold that to your heart. I would say do the same with your child in spirit. Say to them, how do you want to show up? You tell me. So I'd actually reverse that, Elizabeth, and I would say, be open instead to saying, how do you want to show up? What works well for you? I'm going to, in return, work on opening up my awareness. And when I feel you, when I smell you, when I sense you or hear you, I'm going to say it. And just start getting into the habit of saying, I feel you're there. I feel you're there. Thank you for that. I just got the name Chris. I feel like there's someone named Chris in spirit who easily, the mother, I want to say mother in this instance, smells, because he's the one that gave me the smell, and it's very distinct. And it's the sort of thing where when he's around because you smell, but you doubt it. So instead of doubting it, say, I smell you. Thank you for that. Let's try something new. What else could we try? And I want you to go with the very first thing that pops into your mind. This is where our mind can help, but it's really not our mind. It's our intuition. Don't second guess yourself. The very first thing that pops into your mind is from your child. Can you trust that? That's a big ask, but see if it works. Give it a try.
I love this. And Marnie is saying, my son is scratching my head as you were discussing this on touch. That's his way of letting me know he's with me or getting my attention. We also have Phyllis who's saying, I had asked my son for a sign on his angelversary date, and he sent it the following night. And Janet is saying, my son Christopher and I always think I smell his old shoes.
There you go.
I think that you are speaking to Janet right now, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that it's really important to understand that all of this is something. Oh, Leslie is asking a good question. Is ringing in the ears something that my child could be doing to say he is near?
Yes, 100%. I love that question, Leslie. And let me tell you also, the ringing in the ears, for me, it's typically left side. I'd be curious what side it is for you, Leslie, or anyone else. That is often the sign of spirit working on your clairaudience. Now you might say, well, maybe I have a cold. Of course, there could be a physical issue as well. But for me, it comes and goes, and it doesn't connect to when, anything else is happening. It can be very random. And so again, when you feel that, I want you to acknowledge and say, thank you, Spirit, I feel that. It can get so strong sometimes I have to say, take that away. I don't need that right now. And they will honor that because they just needed to hear it, because they don't, again, they're in a spirit body and they don't necessarily hear as we do. And they will tell us that, Spirit, when they come through, they will say, do you hear me? And the more you work with this and the more you attune to them, just the most beautiful things happen. And I want to give all of you hope, because there is hope to be had. It will improve. It can evolve. And I get so excited for each of you because we don't even know what tomorrow brings. And let's give the energy to the feeling of hope and love and trust, rather than worrying about things that we can't control, right? We hear it all the time. It's easy to say. It's easy for me to say it, but it's really, really true. And another message in there is, just because we can't prove it, I can't prove to you right in this moment that your children are here. But just because I can't prove it doesn't mean it's not truth. I really don't know how the internet works, and I'm in technology for my full-time job. I just know that it does. We show up and we can see each other and we can hear each other. I don't need to know how the radio waves and sound waves work for it to happen. So I tell Spirit, don't clog my brain with all the what ifs. Help me focus on what is the path forward. And then it really starts to show up.
Well, we have 2 more minutes and we still have just a few things that people are asking. A lot of people are identifying with what you're saying. Leslie is saying for her ears that it's the right side and sometimes both. It comes and goes in a very random fashion. I have to say that on these meetings, sometimes my ears are ringing so strongly that I can't even really hear what's being said. So it's really interesting. In the very beginning, it was a huge problem for me. It's kind of gone a little bit away with time, but I know that they're still here. But it's just amazing because I'll be fine right before the meeting, and then all of a sudden when we start the meeting, they're just all yelling at me at the same time. But I don't necessarily understand what they're saying the way that you do, which is really nice that you're able to.
Well, it's part of it's deciphering the code, is what I say. Just really deciphering the code. And that's what we work on in workshops and things. And that's why you don't, like I said, not everyone that comes to a workshop, for example, wants to be a medium, but we sure want to be able to have our own connections. And that's the fun part. That's the journey that I think if more people would embrace that journey with the other side of life, they would be happier. We would be a happier society. We would be just glowing all the time. When you know what is to come and what a beautiful blessing it is, I think it makes a difference. So I encourage all of you to explore what works for you.
Well, this journey is all about love. And I think that we realize it when we do have someone transition, that this time that we have is to make our children proud and to be able to show as much love to everyone around us as we can before we also transition. And I also just wanted to tell people about how to contact you. So it's www.annvanorsdel.com. mediumship.com. And do you have any workshops that are coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I do. I'm actually hosting my mentor, Nicole DeHaas Jansen. Some of you may have seen her on the Netflix show, but she is from Holland, and she came last October to the US, to Phoenix, and it was such a great event at my home, and I'll be hosting her again this October. We still have a few places left. That's a 3-day event, which is so great in a small setting to just kind of work on these things. And we will be covering everything from introduction to psychic experiences, all through experiencing trance. So it's going to be pretty encompassing. I've got some other trainings coming up. I would just say, if you're interested, please come to my website and sign up for my newsletter. I try to share about my journey as much as possible. And again, I'm very, very interested in pushing the boundaries when it comes to this work. And I share that. I share the journey along the way, and I really enjoy doing that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming to spend time with us this evening. And everyone's also saying thank you in the chat box. I wanted to just let people know that you're in the Valley. This event with Nicole DeHaas is here in Arizona. And if you're interested, get in touch with Ann. And thank you so much. We always ask everyone to unmute. Irene, would you like to say something beforehand?
Just thank you. What a great night. Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everybody,
Thank you, Ann.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
have a
Thank you very
wonderful
much.
evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Take care. Bye, everyone.